Well, this is a program where not a lot of true freshmen have gotten many minutes over the years, especially recently, but Jayce has been getting a lot of time on the floor recently, so just what makes him an exception to that trend?
Leading up to that, him getting playing time, you're right, most freshmen don't have that ability to step on the college court and be able to contribute, but he just kept on getting better from day one. He's very intelligent, has a high basketball IQ. Obviously, when you can shoot the ball, most coaches will take a pretty keen look at that because that's so valuable in today's game. I thought a weakness of his was his defense, and it's still not, where you want it to be, but it just kept getting better and better, and he's always in the right spots. He understands the concepts and the coverages that we have, and he can make plays. He's just talented. I think he's someone that if he continues to grow, continues to shape his body, and become a more someone that's really focused on the weight room and nutrition and those kinds of things. I think he could be a pretty special player because of his shooting ability and his mind.
Mm-hmm. Early in the season, he's getting 1 minute here, 1 minute there. Maybe doesn't play that game, but that Mary Minot series, his minutes have just skyrocketed since. So, what's changed since then, or maybe what have you seen in him where you started trusting him on the court so much?
Well, when you guard him, what the other teams do is they suck up to him, and that creates space for a lot of people. It creates space for our big guys. It creates space for penetration from other perimeter players, and we needed that. Big players aren't guarding Lowman very tough. They're sitting in the paint. They're not guarding Gary very, very hard. They're sitting in the paint on him, and that clogs things up for our big guys. It clogs things up for other guys that want to drive it. And just having him out there provides space, and spacing is very important to any offense, and he can provide that.
Yeah, I was talking to Jayce, and it's almost any sport, not just basketball, but I hear 9 out of 10 times when asking, freshmen, what's the biggest adjustment? And they say speed of the game, trying to catch up. And most people might think like that's like, up and down or going after loose ball. I mean, it's just like game of inches like we talk about. But I was just asking him about how tough is it adjusting mentally, especially like on defense, you got to be just like having to swivel so much more and stuff like that. And you've coached a lot of guys from high school to college then. Is that really one of the tougher things, and how tough is that to adjust mentally the speed of the game as well from high school to college?
I think it's huge. I think the defenses and the offenses, the offenses might be somewhat similar. They're probably a lot more complicated. There might be a little bit more to some of the offenses in a college setting, but defensively, it's usually a lot more complicated than what a high school team would have. You watch a lot of high school basketball, especially smaller school. It's a lot of zone, and there's not much to it. I think you get into the bigger schools, then I think you start to see more complicated defenses that try to take away a lot of different things that the opposing teams are trying to do. He comes from a decent-sized school, and that may have helped him a little bit. Griffin Chase, came from Nevis in a small school, but he was in a really smart, high basketball IQ kid. His first year he didn't do much, but his second year he picked things up so quickly he was able to do it. So there is some, I think, challenges for especially the smaller school kids, maybe more so than the big school kids, but it's a big difference, I think, going from high school to college, but some just are able to adapt a little bit quicker than others.
Well, not a lot of freshmen in this program have, come in as true freshmen and carved out a role, but just what has it been like for you trying to do just that and, earn minutes for yourself?
Well, came in not expecting to play at all. I just came in expecting maybe a red shirt or something, but he said that I could maybe find time by shooting, being one of our better shooters, just get some shots off and make them trail me around screens so it gets our other guys open. So that's kind of what I'm in there to do.
Mm-hmm. You said you weren't really expecting a role like this. So how unexpected was it when you started getting all the minutes that you did?
Yeah, kind of started in practice. Just every day I'm on the scout team. We just play against the older guys, and one day they just said, "Be ready to play." So I just started that.
Yeah. And then what's again, college game is probably a lot different than the high school game. What's been the biggest adjustment or learning curve that you've had to make this year?
Definitely slowing the pace down of the game. It's a lot faster, but if you get too fast, you get nervous, out of control. But if you just slow it down and take your time off the screens and stuff, it makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, and last one for me. You've been able to find a little bit more of a groove now, just and more minutes, bigger role, things like that. So just what does it mean to you to be able to contribute on the court and try to help this team win?
Yeah, I know offense is my main contribution, but I'm definitely gonna work on defense and get better at that, and hopefully help the team defensively a lot more.
I could have guessed that. It's almost all the time the speed of the game is the hardest adjustment from high school to college. How about is it tough, just obviously physically, in high school you probably were a little bit more gifted and good shooter as well, but then how much of it tough transition-wise, the mental side of the game is being, especially defense, you gotta keep your head on a swivel that much more. How much of the mental, part of the game is tough to transition as well?
Yeah, that's actually probably one of the biggest things is mentally. You gotta always be knowing where you're going. You kind of gotta read the play in advance. You can't just move after they pass the ball. You gotta be ready to jump the pass or something. So yeah, mentally it's a lot more challenging.
And then Jayce, was there a point this year, when you kind of like a game maybe, or maybe in a practice even, where it's all right, you knew that it's okay, I could be a solid contributor for this team, in whatever role it is. But was there a point where you're okay, this isn't too big for me. This is something that I can do. I can be a big role player for this team this year.
Yeah, definitely before the U-Mary game, which is actually where I'm from, is my hometown. But yeah, right before that game, all week, the players were saying, yeah, you be ready this game. And then right before the game, Boschee came up to me and he was like, yeah, be ready to get in. So that gave me a lot of confidence. And I mean, he told me weeks before that if I get in there, I'm the shooter. I got to be ready to shoot if they have their hand down. So that's mainly what I'm in there to do.
Yeah. And I just thought of this down too. So when was the last time that you've had to come off the bench?
I thought about that actually the other day. I was thinking about that, and I'd probably say, honestly, never. I've never, because sophomore year I played on the sophomore team. I didn't play on varsity, but ever since I started every single year of basketball. So yeah, never.
And so that's got to be an adjustment, right?
Yeah.
Is there some difficult things with that? Trying to instead of just starting out the game, you kind of have to read it. Maybe it's a little good. Sometimes it's good for guys so they get a feel for the game a little bit,
Yeah, actually, I kind of like it. I don't mind it at all. It's I get to adjust. I get to see what they're in, coming out. I get to see what the starters are going against, and then I kind of mentally adjust to what's happening and jump in there and I'm ready to go.
Cool.
What has going against Kone and Barron practice done for you in terms of developing quickness?
Yeah, that's definitely the biggest strength here is me being on a scout team. I've never been a point guard in my life, and they kind of just threw me at point guard, and now I'm going against probably one of the best defenders in the conference every single day in practice. So my ball handling has for sure gotten way better, and just knowing the game, passing, everything. But yeah, they're tough, definitely tough in practice.
And last question, what's your range? 25, 23? How far can you shoot it, stroke it if you're open?
If I'm open, I guess anywhere, I don't know.